Guys?
I do want to go ahead and get into the first part of my stream today. And of course, that first part being my review for Scream 6, chat. It's one of the big releases this week. And again, for those of you who may not know, Scream 6 is set about a year after the 2022 Ghostface killings in Woodsboro, California. A new Ghostface has tracked down the survivors to New York City and begins viciously targeting them and their friends in brutal fashion. Now, like I said, as many of you know, I'm a very big fan of the Scream series. The original Scream is one of my favorite horror films of all time, and I really enjoy a number of the sequels, especially 2 and 4. After the release of 5, which I liked, recently reviewed it again, but I did have a few criticisms of it. I was still curious, what they were going to do, for the follow up. Especially because of the fact that they were not going to include Neve Campbell in this movie because of the unwillingness to pay her what she was owed. As I said many times before, chat, Neve Campbell, she is as much a face of this franchise as Ghostface is. She is a incredible actress, and she is a scream queen, chat, and she is, one of the defining figures in all of horror, and she deserves the respect, chat. And so that is always going to be upsetting that they couldn't get her back for this particular film, especially because of those circumstances. Now, despite that, I was interested and excited even, despite, the fact that she was not included. I was also a little trepidatious over the behind-the-scenes drama. But I can safely say, Chad, thankfully, the filmmakers and writers that have been shepherding this franchise since the last one, since Scream 5, they've delivered, in my opinion, a superior sequel that addressed a number of my criticisms of the previous Scream, of Scream 5, chat. First of all, the film has a fantastic opening. I mean, I think every single one of the Scream films have delivered a really strong, captivating opening. And this opening, I mean, to me, I feel like Scream 1 still stands out as probably the best just because of what it was doing, how it was genre bending. Nothing like that had happened in a horror movie before, where it's like, why would you seemingly kill your main star at the beginning? It was crazy, Chad. It was kind of the start of that dissection of horror films becoming meta, and I really appreciate that. This opening does something we haven't seen in the franchise before, and it is entertaining and brutal, and most importantly, again, very, very surprising. And I thought, wow, this is a fantastic opening. Even better than the opening to Scream 5, which I thought was also like a really good opening to that movie. They start off on the right foot, on the right stab, on the right kill, if you will. And like Scream 2 before it, I like that we moved locations and are now, in this case, the case of this film, in New York City. They play around a lot with the environment, and it sets up some great action sequences, tension, and obviously a number of like really great kills. When it comes to the kills especially, and overall violence, I have to say, this is probably the most gory and bloody Scream film in the entire series. Ghostface is absolutely vicious in this. Stabbings, disembowelings, bludgeonings, among other ways to dispatch people, are handled very, very well, in my opinion. Along with the kill and deaths, there are some just great set pieces in this movie, filled with tension that builds very well over time. And I think the film's action choreography is also quite good. They have just a lot of great sequences in the way in which they're moving the camera, how they're positioning all the actors, how they're just using their environment very, very well. That really stood out to me. I really took note of that. I mentioned, the people earlier, the cast, of course. And that was one of the things that I wanted to touch on the most One of my biggest criticisms of Scream 5 was the new cast. I really like Jenna Ortega, who is, blown up, in just a few years, Chad. She's one of the most in-demand actresses right now, and she's obviously incredibly talented, and she was quite good in that Scream film, Scream 5. And of course, I really like Jack Quaid in the previous movie, too. They both brought, I think, a lot of personality. But the rest of the cast, the new cast, wasn't as interesting to me. Not that the actors were doing like a bad job, but I think the script underserved them. I've always said, in my most recent review when I reviewed the film last year, just felt like it needed a punch up. There was just something missing. Here, which we have, the main cast, the core four, as they call them here. They spend most of the movie together, and it was just the thing that was needed. They have a sense of rapport. I actually feel like they're friends. Like, that was one of my big criticisms of Scream 5, was the fact that, okay, this is the friend group and everything. You're telling me they're the friend group, but I never felt like they all had like a great rapport. They never felt like true friends. And also another criticism, they spent so much time kind of separated from each other. Like, they had a couple of scenes, maybe like a handful of scenes, 3 scenes, that stood out in my mind where they were together, but they were so short. Here's so much of the movie, these characters are all together, and they're all bouncing off of each other, and I thought that was great. Was exactly what was needed. Their interactions are also funnier, and because of this, you feel more invested in them and what they're going through. I criticized the character of Sam Carpenter, played by Melissa Barrera. I think that's how you say her name. My apologies. Correct me if I'm wrong. Which of course it was established in the previous movie that, she's the daughter, I guess the illegitimate daughter of Billy Loomis, one of the original killers from Scream 1. And that was kind of the only interesting thing about her performance. Here, they give her a lot more to do. I really like her rapport with Jenna Ortega and like the rest of the cast. She spends a lot of time with them, and they just improve each other's performances. And I thought she was much better. She was much stronger here, where I thought originally it was kind of lacking. Again, I don't think like necessarily her fault now. It was just because I think the screenplay was underserving them. And the same, Jenna Ortega still remains great. She's still really good in this movie. She was great in the last one. She's great here. But the two that I thought got some of the most improvement, other than, of course, Melissa Barrera, was Jasmine Savory Brown, who plays Mindy Meeks, and Mason Gooding, who plays Chad Meeks, who are, of course, the niece and nephew, respectively, of Randy Meeks, Jamie Kennedy's character from Scream 1 and Scream 2. Again, they're given more to do. They have a nice rapport with each other, and, their relationships are changing amongst their friend group, and I'm like, I really, really like that. I thought that was great. I was like, finally, I feel invested in these characters. I actually like them, and I just don't think of them as me, like, all right, like in the last movie when someone like, when Chad was getting stabbed, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. But now I'm like, oh, I don't want anything bad to happen to him, especially Cindy, And listen, we also obviously see the return of a few legacy characters in the film, most notably Gale Weathers, played by Courtney Cox, and Kirby Reed, played by Hayden Panettiere, who of course was a fan favorite from Scream 4. And again, I just saw Scream 4 for the first time like last year. I'd never seen it for 10 years, basically, chat. And I love Scream 4, but the character that really stood out to me in terms of the new cast was Hayden Panettiere's Kirby. I thought she was great, as I've described her. She just has everything. She's smart, she's funny, she's sassy, she's sexy, she's got all of it. She's the whole fucking package. She's what you want in a lead character, and she just nailed it. And she was like this film geek, and I think she's really good here. But the thing is, Gale is just a welcome sight in this movie. And she gets a terrific sequence in the film, which is you kind of already seen in the trailers already. It's not too much of a spoiler. You just get a terrific sequence of the film involving Ghostface. And I loved it. Like the choreography, how they dealt with all that was really good, filled with tension, some great scares, and some pretty scary moments. I really liked how they handled all that. And it was also, we realized, like, oh shit, this is the first time that Gale has ever talked to Ghostface on the phone. And they make a point of saying, I was like, oh, that is true. That's really cool. I thought that was great. And again, with the character of Kirby, which, she was obviously not in the fifth one, but it was shown that she had survived the events of Scream 4, because like we never saw her. We saw her get stabbed by one of the Culkin kids, right? But we never knew what really happened to her. It was confirmed in like a little Easter egg. If you're watching carefully, chat, in Scream 5, Jack Quaid's character, he's watching, I think, like the Dead Meat channel. which are these like horror movie reviewers, and there's another recommended in his recommended video list. There's an interview with Kirby Reed, the survivor of the Ghostface killings in Woodsboro, 2011. I was like, oh shit! And so here they bring her back. She's an actual character. Since the events of Scream 4, she's become an FBI agent. We learn more about what happened to her between the events of that film and this one, and how her survival and basically the attempted murder has affected her life and how she perceives things. They now listen. I mean, the big controversy of this movie going in, and I get it, because I'm the same way. I still feel kind of miffed that they did not include Neve Campbell in the character of Sidney Prescott, especially because of the behind the scenes circumstances. It just is really frustrating to me. They do mention Sidney Prescott throughout the film, and they do give a reason for her not being in this particular movie. The reason they give makes sense. I was like, yeah, no, I mean, that makes sense. I don't want to say what that reason is. I want people obviously to be surprised with that. But I was like, I get it, But I just hope later on in this franchise we can, eventually, bring her back. That they can make amends and they can give her what she obviously deserves. There's also just there's a lot more detail I want to delve into in this movie. And also talking about like what it's specifically paying homage to. But if I would do that, I would definitely be giving way more away than I would want to. And the last thing, I will say is that I think this film does a great job of honoring the history of the Scream franchise. And they do a really great job of discussing and incorporating the events of all the previous films in the series for this movie. It's like, and I don't want to say too much or we see in the trailer chat, we see that what seemingly is like a shrine to Ghostface, and they explain what that is and how all this Ghostface material is getting out there. And I'm like, I just think this is so cool. I really liked all that. I thought that was great. At this point, I'm excited to see where they're going to take the franchise at this point. I'm hoping we can eventually see the return, like I said, of Neve Campbell as Sidney as well. But I think at this point, I think I can safely say that the Scream series is definitely not going anywhere anytime soon. And we will also be seeing a follow-up to this one. I mean, I think at this point, I was reading, this is going to have the best opening of the franchise. Yeah, I think this is tracking for like a $40+ $50 million opening, which would be crazy. But it shows just, the last one, despite my, criticisms of the movie, it was a commercial and critical hit. It did do well. I think it made $107 million. Looks like this is going to do as good, if not better. So they're going to keep these films going, George. I'm excited. I just hope, they can fix the behind the scenes stuff and get Neve Campbell back in there and, and write a good part for Sidney Prescott again. I think there's a reason as to why they do certain things and choose not to do certain things, because I think in the absence of Sidney Prescott, it would feel a little awkward. And again, I don't want to get into too many details to why I feel like maybe certain things might feel awkward without her inclusion in later sequels. But I'm hoping they can rectify that and do that. But despite her absence, I do think this movie is very good. I think it's a nice improvement over the last one, which again I did enjoy, but it did have its issues. Here they do correct a number of the issues that I had with it. In terms of, if I were to rank this in the Scream franchise, it's hard for me. Scream 1, like I said, it's like one of my favorite horror films of all time, one of my favorite movies of all time, of course. I love Scream 2, and obviously I'm a huge fan recently of Scream 4. I do feel like this is, I would put this under Scream 4 at this point. I think Scream, I can see some people saying maybe above that. But for me, I think this is right behind Scream 4, and then I would do Scream 5, and of course Scream 3, as everyone would put that there. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. If I were to give this a rating on the double toasted scale, for me, I don't know, I was really entertained by it. I think like a low full price, like around there. I'm feeling pretty good about that. Yeah, I was very entertained. Like there's just so many great sequences. I was really impressed with the camera work, and the editing was great. And this movie just has a fantastic opening. So good. I was like, wow, that's so original and fun and cool. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So, but that's just kind of my opinion, chat. I'm curious to what you guys have to say about this film. Let me know. Let me know. I hope everyone enjoyed the film review, and I want to take the time to tell you about the movie of the week, a film that I really enjoy and one that I think you will too. This week's movie is Scream, just in time for the release of Scream 6. Scream is directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson. A year after the murder of her mother, a teenage girl is terrorized by a killer who targets the girl and her friends by using horror films as part of a deadly game. If anyone is interested in purchasing this fantastic film, please make use of the Amazon affiliate link below in the video description. Your subsequent purchase of the film not only earns me a helpful commission, but any purchase you may make after clicking on the link itself for 24 hours would help earn me additional commissions as well. Doesn't matter if it's a Blu-ray, a video game, a pair of socks, or a washing machine, everything within 24 hours of that click can really help the channel. So go ahead and check out the film, enjoy browsing and shopping.